Jūratė and Kastytis. The calm Baltic Sea spreads embers on the coast after the storm. It seems as if it wants to apologize for the spurt of anger. As soon as the thunder, which is nicely called dundalis by children, moves away, everybody rushes to the seashore to pick up the gifts of the sea. These yellowish, heat-beaming little stones elevate joyful amazement for some people. Look, what Jūratė gives us. Other people just remember the old seacoast legend about Jūratė and Kastytis. Uneasy was life for the fishermen on the seacoast. The Baltic Sea was lavish only for the strong and stout-hearted people. Not one valiant, who was self-reliant over much, was taught a lesson. The sea tore the fishing nets and broke the oars. People used to talk in dismay and anxiety about those who didn't come back. Children used to say that the mermaids wowed and rocked the fishermen asleep. Young fisherman Kastytis lived in a poor seacoast cabin only with his mother, because his father didn't come back from sea. It was hard to live near the seashore for a widow whose son Kastytis looked towards the sea again and again. The earth, its troubles, hard and dirty work didn't attract him. The boy liked waves white with foam that nestled to his bare feet. Looking at misty distance, Kastytis sang, and these songs were so nice that nobody could be annoyed with him, and nobody could objurgate him for his lack of care for his home and his mother. Kastytis grew up fast. He was an attractive guy, and his songs charmed a lot of the girls, but none of the beauty's heart tied him on the coast. It seemed that somebody from the bottom of the sea was listening to the songs of Kastytis. Just as Kastytis started to sing, the waves calmed down. Everything around subsided and pricked up ears. Insensibly, Kastytis swam further than other fishermen, and his fishing nets were full of fish. A water goddess Jūratė lived at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. At the time, there were a lot of water nymphs which dove in the waves. They started to talk to Jūratė about Kastytis, his autotune songs, encouraged to fish more and more often. Jūratė was curious why a terrestrial had disturbed the sea rules. He fascinated her subordinates by his songs and swam too far from the coast. Jūratė summoned her servant water nymphs and decided to see the defiant valiant. The goddess ordered to sail the most beautiful ship from the deep waters to let commoner from the land see what a wealth lived in the sea. From the distance, she looked like a queen of earthly dream vestured in a sparkling scaly wrap. Dreamy Kastytis saw Jūratė in such an appearance. He hauled a net and sang quietly. His songs flew like earthly birds, and his sweet wings touched the ears of Jūratė. She listened to that earthly song in astonishment, and the anger in her heart started to melt. "Hey fisherman, you steal my fishes," reproached Jūratė in a strict voice. Kastytis fell silent. Dazzling of a girl's beauty, the guy rubbed his eyes. Could he be dreaming? But it wasn't a dream. He was stupefied and didn't notice how quickly black clouds were rising from the distance and overcast the sky. Formidable Percunus, the thunder, swung his flaming arrows as he didn't want the earthly bug Kastytis to hope being loved by the sea goddess. Never swim there anymore. Listen how angry Percunus has become. The goddess flashed out against the fisherman and dove in the waves. But later she appeared on the surface of the water once again and said, "But you sing very nicely," and she disappeared in the waves. Kastytis didn't remember the time he came back. Just as he stepped ashore, Percunis hit so angrily that the biggest pine tree on the seashore became black from his wrath. In an hour's time, the awful storm started in the sea. It seemed that heaven and earth had mixed up. In such a way, Percunis was down on Jūratė, as she dared to show herself and even talk to the man whose life is so tenuous and short. Kastytis went to the sea more and more often. Sounding songs wafted over the waves of the sea. That summer was stormy as never. Percunis beat, splashed over the waves almost every day and every night, took his revenge on the fisherman for his inhuman courage and on Jūratė for her godlike forwardness. They met more and more often. They talked increasingly and didn't perceive that they started to yearn, and later fell in love with each other. Kastytis told his mother what he saw in the sea, and his mother became very startled. He went to the sea more often. He saw nothing around him, neither his cabin nor sandy hills or his old mother, who was worried a lot. Have you ever seen a man who was eager to get into the water world where the goddess of the sea Jūratė lived? "My son, don't go to the sea," cried his mother. "Isn't this earth feeding us enough? Look, the rye near the cabin is already pale." But Kastytis was silent. He heard and saw nothing. He just looked for the right time to go to the sea. In the afternoon, his mother was sad and silent. She didn't like her son's joy, as wherever he went, he sang songs, and wherever he looked, he saw only the sea. When Kastytis sat in the boat, white foam surrounded it, and powerful windflaw blew from the coast and took the boat forward. Shining, pretty sea goddess Jūratė was waiting for her darling Kastytis. From a distance, they saw each other. Nobody could stop them, neither rising waves nor flaming arrows of Percunis, and neither his menace. Sparkling, sweet, and miraculous Jūratė invited her lover, the son of earth. He stretched his hands, and they forgot themselves in the infinite felicity of their meeting. But as soon as Jūratė's arms embraced Kastytis' neck, a painful flaming arrow was thrust at Kastytis' heart. Jūratė saw the fading lover's eyes. His sloping arms that had just been holding her embraced. Despair and displeasure caught her. She pretended being the Earth's daughter-in-law, but not the Baltic Sea goddess. She gently laid her lover on the wave, stroked his eyes with her godlike fingers, and asked the water nymphs to take care of him. The water nymphs quickly took Kastytis to the coast. In a fit of temper, Percunis knocked and banged about the Baltic Sea for a long time. Rigorous Sky King could not understand how it was possible to set one's heart on earthly felicity so airily. He broke Jūratė's castle, the next arrow aimed at her perfect ships. Later, only a lot of chips, which were dissipated by the stormy waves, were lying in the deep waters. Nobody has seen Jūratė since then. Only the amber, which is upcast from the Baltic Sea after the storms, recalls that water goddess who wanted earthly fortune and therefore was painfully punished, had lived in the deep sea. The ambers that were polished by centuries and the waves told their story about the godlike Jūratė. If you take a piece of amber in your hands, it isn't difficult to imagine that it had its own great history to tell as it was beaten and fondled by the waves, heated by the sun, frozen by frost. Not a shorter way the legends went from mouth to mouth. They were told differently, and they were differently colored by narrator. The legend of Jūratė and Kastytis tells us about the inexorable desire of fortune, about the love like a present, about the happiness and death.